Hello and welcome. I'm Kate Ambrose and this is Mrs. Ambrose History Class. So today I'm going to be doing the entirety of my version of the Modern World Timeline cards using Classical Conversations timeline cards. For this I'm going to be explaining what my reasoning is behind each of the motions that I use for the timeline cards. I will do a subsequent video where I just go through all of the timeline cards and don't explain what I'm doing between each of them. For that video, it might be a great thing if you wanted to use it for your student for their memory work, and you'd be welcome to do so. To start, we're going to begin with our timeline cards, and we're going to do the Civil War. Now, Classical Conversations actually calls this Lincoln's War between the states, but for my purposes, I'm going to use the Civil War. So for this one, I use ASL fingerspelling, and I just hold up a C for civil and a W for war. The Civil War. I like to do a little bit of a rhythm and a cadence to them. I think it helps with the memory. The next one is Reconstruction of the Southern States. And for this one, I like to do Reconstruction of the Southern States. And I do this like we're making building blocks. The next one is Dominion of Canada. And for that, I make a crown on my head. Dominion of Canada. A C, fingerspelling C for Canada. The next one is Otto von Bismarck unifies Germany. So I do Otto, O, von, V, Bismarck, unifies Germany. Bringing my hands together like for unity. The next one is Boer Wars in Africa, which is actually one of my students' favorites. Obviously, we're going just for a mnemonic device, something to trigger memory, not for accuracy. So while the Boer were not actually an animal group, but rather an ethnic group, we're going to go ahead and make boar tusks with our hands. So Boer Wars in Africa. Then we have the Spanish-American War. So I'm going to fingerspell an S and then an A, Spanish-American, and this is the sign language for war, like two groups that are at war. The Spanish-American War. And then we have the Progressive Era. So I hold out my hand and I make a little man walking, the Progressive Era. This is the other favorite of all of my students. Australia becomes a Commonwealth. Wow, we become kangaroos. Australia becomes a Commonwealth. The next is the Mexican Revolution. For this, I fingerspell an M, and then I fingerspell an R, but I also turn it like a revolution, so it's a double device. The Mexican Revolution. Then we have World War I and President Wilson. For this I do world, like a globe, war, one, and President Woodrow Wilson. We went ahead and added Woodrow in there because it worked and we could do two W's. Next we have Lenin and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And so for this one, I fingerspell an L for Lenin, and then we fist pump like this, and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Next is U.S. Evangelist Billy Graham. So I make a book or a Bible, U.S. Evangelist Billy Graham. Next we have Modern Period of the Arts. Very easy, we do a paintbrush. Modern Period of the Arts. And then we have next the Great Depression and the New Deal. So for the Great Depression, we just kind of collapse and look depressed. The Great Depression, and then for the New Deal, we make like we're making a money sign, and the New Deal. The Great Depression and the New Deal. Next we have World War II and President Franklin D. Roosevelt. So we do just like we did for World War I. We make the globe, World War II, and President Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, fingerspelling. Next we have Stalin of the USSR and the Katyn Massacre. Stalin was known for his mustache, and then massacre, pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the United Nations formed. So for this we do United, U for United, N for Nations, fingerspelling, and then formed. The United Nations formed. Next we have the Cold War. So we go the Cold war. Now we have Gandhi and India's independence. So for this we do, can you see that? We do Gandhi, like we're meditating or something, and India's independence. India, like a dot on the forehead, and then independence. Next we have Jewish state established. So for this I went and found what the ASL, American Sign Language sign was for Judaism, and it is your hand going like this on each side of your face. So we just went ahead and do that. Jewish state established. Then we have Mao and communist victory in China. So for ASL, for Chinese, they have 1, 2, 3, I don't think you can see that, 1, 2, 3 dots, kind of like the buttons on a traditional Chinese outfit. So we do Mao and communist victory in China. Next we have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. So we get our handy finger spelling back out, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, N-A-T-O, or you could do N-A-T-O if you're faster with your finger spelling. Then we have the Korean War. So for this one I make a K for Korea, the Korean War. Don't ask me why I didn't do this sign for the Civil War. I didn't. I do it for all the other wars, but I'm not consistent apparently. Then we have Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement. This one's a long one. So what we do is we finger spell Martin, M, Luther, L, King, K, Jr., the J for Junior, and then we take a bow and the Civil Rights Movement. So it's Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights. You're taking a bow for that if you can't see. And then you push your hands, movement. And then we have Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, missionaries to Ecuador. So we do Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, and then we take our fingers and we make kind of the OK sign, and we do missionaries to Ecuador. Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, missionaries to Ecuador. And this is the sign for missionary or preach in ASL. Now we do the Antarctic Treaty. Again, cold in Antarctica, so we do the Antarctic, and then we sign our name like we're signing a treaty. The Antarctic Treaty. Then we have the Vietnam War. So we do a V for Vietnam, and then we do war. The Vietnam War. And then we have U.S. astronauts walk on the moon. So for this we do fingerspell U.S., and then we make a plank with our hand like it's part of a rocket ship launch, and then we make an L here and we launch this rocket ship. U.S. astronauts walk on the moon. Next we have the age of information and globalization. So we take our fingers like we're putting knowledge into our head. The age of information and globalization, making that globe again. Then after that we have Watergate and President Nixon resigns. So for this one we make a phone call, a la Watergate. Watergate, and then for President Nixon resigns, I decided to go with the iconic I am not a crook. So Watergate and President Nixon resigns. The fall of communism in Eastern Europe. We do the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. E's for Eastern Europe. Then we do the European Union formed. So for this one we do European Union, EU, formed. Next we have apartheid abolished in South Africa. So since apartheid was about separating, we have apartheid abolished in South Africa. We're all done with that. Then we do September 11th, 2001. For this we make the Twin Towers with our hands. So September 11th, and then they fall, 2001. September 11th, 2001. And then last but not least, we have the rising tide of freedom. So for this we make a wave with our hand. The rising tide of freedom. And that, my friends, is the entirety of our modern world timeline. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them as a comment on the video or email me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And if you have a chance, go ahead and like the video so that I can make some more. Thanks so much. Bye.